Chapter 2. We got back from our walk around 3 and Bilbo took our coats to our respected rooms. I took a seat next at the table. "Is it time for tea?" Bilbo asked me, grabbing a kettle from one of the cabinets. "Yes, that sounds like a great idea." Bilbo filled the kettle up with water and placed it over the stove. He placed a box of tea leaves in front of me and let me choose between them. By the time I had settled on a rose green tea, the water was ready. Bilbo placed some leaves into the teacups and handed me one along with a few biscuits. He sat down beside me and we sipped on our tea. "Let's go into the market tomorrow. I heard Bell Goodchild was having a sale on some fresh produce," I told him, biting into a biscuit. Bilbo nodded in agreement. The tea was soon gone and after clearing our plate we each went to do our own thing. That was another thing I loved about my brother. It was always great when we were together, but it was also easy to be apart. The rest of the day went along slowly and I nearly forgot about our awkward interaction with the wizard. Supper rolled around and I hungrily sat down in front of the meal Bilbo had laid out. On the plate was a beautiful fried fish with some fresh baked dinner rolls on the side. He sat beside me with a smile and picked up a slice of lemon. As he started to juice it over his fish, we heard a loud knock on the door. Bilbo halted his actions, looking over at me. "Lots of surprises today, huh?" I said to him as he got up to answer the door. "Dwlin," I heard a male voice say to him. His voice was low and gruff. "At your service." I got up and walked towards the voice. "Dwlin," the man said again, "at your service." He was short. Not as short as the two of us, but short nonetheless. He was bald at the top of his head with hair around the side and a great full beard reaching just under his shoulders. Tattoos covered his head and he carried with him weapons and furs. He had scars on his face and arms as if he had seen many great battles. His eyebrows were furrowed as he waited for us to respond to him. "Bilbo and Y.N. Baggins." "At yours," Bilbo responded to the man. He stepped inside Bag End and we were finally able to see his full height. He stood just under 5 feet, towering over Bilbo and I. "I'm sorry. Do we know you?" I asked him. "No," he said, annoyed. Before we could respond, the man left and started wandering around Bag End. "Which way is it, lass?" Dwlin called out to me. "Which way is what?" I asked back, trying to find him through the halls of the house. "Supper." He said there would be food. He told us, giving a sigh of relief as he found the kitchen. He walked in and sat down in front of our plates. He said. "Who said?" Bilbo asked me. I shrugged and we walked into the kitchen. "Excellent food. Do you have any more?" he asked Bilbo. Bilbo looked around quickly, as to not upset the man, and grabbed the dinner rolls, sneaking one for each of us and handing the rest over to Dwlin. Dwlin continued to stuff his face with food. Bilbo leaned over to him, speaking quieter. "The thing is, we were not exactly expecting." He paused, lost for words. "Company." I finished for him, nodding. "Yes, that," he said. A knock interrupted Dwlin's response. A smirk appeared on his face. Bilbo and I both turned our heads to look towards the noise. Dwlin let out a gruff chuckle. "That'll be the door," he told us, looking back down at the food in his hands. We looked at each other before getting up to answer it. "Balin." "At your service," the older man on the other side said. He looked similar in structure to Dwlin. He had white hair that covered his head and trailed down his back. A white beard started just above his chin and fell down past his chest. He was a tad bit shorter than Dwlin and looked quite a few moons older, with similar scars on his face and arms. "Good evening," Bilbo responded plainly, his confusion growing. "It is, isn't it? Though I think it may rain later," he told us, looking out at the clear sky. He stepped past us, looking around. "Am I late?" "Late? Late for what?" I responded. Balin moved in towards the living room where Dwyn stood with his hand in the cookie jar. He was shaking it quite roughly and I could picture it shattering. "Oh. Evening, brother." Balin greeted him. "By my beard, you are shorter and wider than last we met," Dwyn told him, getting a full look at Balin. "Shorter," Balin corrected him, "not wider. But sharp enough for the both of us." He winked. The two started laughing and gripped each other's shoulders. Suddenly they head-butted, surprising Bilbo and I. They laughed a bit more before walking off towards the pantry room, ignoring the two of us. I followed after Bilbo, who was practically chasing them. I could see the annoyance growing on Bilbo's face. "I do not know either of you and I do not like to be blunt, but I need to speak my mind," Bilbo said to the men raiding his pantry. "I'm sorry," he told them. They paused their conversation only for a moment to look at the two of us. Balin smiled sweetly. "Apology accepted." I opened my mouth to get in on the argument when a third knock was heard on the door. Bilbo rushed out annoyed and I followed quickly after him. He opened the door where two more men stood. They looked very similar to each other and I mentally guessed that they must be related. One was blonde with a short beard while the other was a brunette, clean-shaven. They had the same shape as the previous two when it finally dawned on me. "Dwarves," I said out loud, looking over at Bilbo. "They're dwarves." "Thanks for noticing, lass," the blonde one said, winking. Bilbo rolled his eyes at the action and looked between the two of them, waiting for an introduction similar to that of Balin and Dwyn. "Keely." The brunette introduced himself. There it was. "And Philly," he blonde chimed in. "At your service," they said in unison. "You must be the Boggins siblings," Keely said to us, smiling. "Nope. You have come to the wrong house," Bilbo told them, attempting to close the door. "What?" Keely asked, stopping the door with his foot. "Has it been cancelled?" "No one told us," Philly said, looking bummed out. "Cancelled?" I said, confused. "No, nothing has been cancelled." "That's a relief," Philly said as the two stepped inside. He handed me a few swords, each wrapped in cloth. "Careful with these, just had 'em sharpened," he told me, winking again. It was my turn to roll my eyes and I tossed the weapons on a sofa. The two brothers made themselves at home, trailing mud on the carpets and helping Dwyn and Balin rearrange the dining room. "We will barely have enough space to fit everyone in," Balin stated, looking at the room. "Everyone?" Bilbo and I asked in unison. The door sounded again and Bilbo stormed off. This time I stayed with the dwarves, trying to get them to stop their actions. They would have none of it. "Nope. There's no one home. Go away and bother someone else. There are far too many dwarves in my dining room as it is. If this is someone's idea of a joke, I can only say it is in very poor taste." I heard him yell. I quickly ran out just before he opened the door. We watched in utter confusion as 8 more dwarves tumbled inside. From behind them, Gandalf poked his head inside and smiled softly at us. "Gandalf," I breathed out as I felt a bit of the frustration leave my body.
I'm glad you enjoyed that video/gameplay. Just remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Until next time, goodbye!